14, we have psychological tests. And to unit 15, it is enhancing psychological competencies.
At all the right times. Okay. I hope I am heard. I repeat this again. Yeah. Competence means that an individual has the ability to do something well and that they are capable of performing a task or a job effectively. Competence include the knowledge and skills that needs to be solve the problems. They can range from simple competencies need to solve everyday problems to complex competencies required to run a multinational company, right? So competency is something that needs to be practiced so that it can be used effectively in a wide range of appropriate situations and all at the right times. It could be anything, like whatever talent one has. If you use it repeatedly and if you keep practicing it, whether it is teaching, whether it is mentoring, or whether it is playing an instrument, or whether it is learning an art, whether it is painting, anything, if you do it repeatedly and continuously and consistently, you will develop a competency to do it perfectly well. Okay, that's the understanding of what competency is all about. Okay, so now let us look at some of the definitions of competencies. The dictionary defines competency as the stage or a quality of being properly or qualified competence, denotes motivation and action to achieve a level of qualification or a capability. Competency also refers to an individual's capability and demonstrated ability to understand and do certain tasks in an appropriate and effective manner, consistent with the to a personal achieve qualification, demonstrated ability to understand to do certain tasks in an appropriate manner, consistent with the expectations for a person qualified by education and training in a particular profession or specifically thereof. Studies on competency indicate that competency covers a very complicated and extensive concept, and different scientists have different definitions of competence. Some of the definitions stated as per the various researchers are Hayes 1979. He says competence generally include knowledge, motivation, and social characteristics and roles or skills of one person in accordance with the demands of the situation. Another definition which is a standard one. Competence baseline is a group of knowledge, personal attitudes, skills and related experiences which are needed for the person's success. Another definition talks about collection of behaviors and skills which people are expected to show in their work. Another definition by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, 2002, competence is defined as a knowledge, skill, and specifications which can cause one person to act better, not considering a special proficiency in that job. The Artist Company model says competency is a series of knowledge, abilities, skills, experiences, and behaviors, which leads to effective performance of individuals' activities. Competency is measurable and could be developed through training. It is also breakable into smaller criteria, right? So when you're talking about competency, it is generally a description of the requirements of human beings in organization and communities. If someone is able to do a required task at the target level of proficiency, they are competent in that area, right? So regardless of the training and competency would go through experience and extend the individual's capacity to learn and adapt. However, research has found that it is not easy to assess competencies and competence development. Now, let us look at the need for the competence. Competence is a psychological need to exert a meaningful effect on one's environment. It refers to innate propensity to develop skill and ability and to experience effectiveness in actions. Competence promotes the pursuit of challenges and deeply satisfying experiences and is a criteria for psychological growth and well-being, right? So that is the need for the competence. Now, competence promotes the pursuit of challenging and deeply satisfying experiences and is a criterion for psychological growth and well-being. When people do not need, when people do not feel capable and effective, their motivations fall and they suffer ill-being. On the other hand, the experience of mastery leads to feelings of personal satisfaction, strength, interest, and well-being. This need for competence is universal. It is essential for individuals across cultures. The need for competence fuels persistence, sustained efforts, and attention, and the determination to improve. It is the reason people generally prefer tasks that are challenging rather than boring or easy. In other words, the need for competence drives the desire to seek out optimal challenges. When people engage in optimally difficult and complex activities, their talents and skills are stimulated at a developmentally suitable level. This produces a deeply satisfying perception of competence in the moment, which generates interest and energy for continued activity. Satisfying the need for competence. Because individuals are continuously and fundamentally involved in an ongoing exchange with the environment, their senses of perceived competence depends largely on a degree in which the social environment can provide competence satisfying conditions. There are three important ways in which social environment can facilitate perceived competence, right? And they are providing guidance, giving feedback, and tolerating errors and failure. Now let us look at the psychological competence model. In psychology, there are four stages of competence. The conscious competence, the learning model, relates to the psychological states involved in the process of progressing from incompetence to competence. The management trainer Martin M. Broadwell described the model as the four levels of teaching, right? It's in 1969 February. The model was also used by Gordon Training International in 1970s, where it is called the four stages of learning any skill. The four stages suggest that individuals are initially unaware of how little they know or how unconscious of their incompetence. As they recognize their incompetence, they consciously acquire a skill and then consciously use it. Eventually, the skill can be utilized without it being consciously thought through. The individual is said to have acquired unconscious competence. The four stages of competence deals with the learning stages. Let us look at the four. The first one is the unconscious incompetence. What is unconscious incompetence? The individual does not understand or know how to do something and does not necessarily recognize the deficit. That means the person is not conscious about the incompetence. The person, he or she, is totally unconscious, right? For example, a research scholar, when writing the thesis, initially may not recognize the importance of good writing skill, and they may fail to understand that research needs good writing skills. He may be unconscious about it. Okay. The next one is the conscious incompetence. What is conscious incompetence? Though the individual does not understand or know how to do something, they recognize the deficit as well as the value of a new skill in addressing the deficit. That means the person is aware that he or she is incompetent, right? He wants to do something, he wants to use the skill and is aware that he is not, no, is incompetent about it. So he is conscious about that. So what does he do? He learns the skill because he already knows that he does not have the competence. He learns the skill, he practices the skill and tries to acquire the new skills and becomes competent, right? The next one is a conscious competence. What is conscious competence? Here, the individual understands or knows how to do something. However, the demonstrating the skill or knowledge requires concentration. It may be broken down into steps, and there is heavy conscious involvement in executing a new skill. Example of a research scholar now understand with the help of guidance to write this thesis. Thus, this stage where a lot of effort is made, also learning of a new skill. Okay, so writing skill is learned. Okay, so the person learns the skill. Now, the fourth type is the unconscious incompetence. What is unconscious competence? The individual had so much practice with the skill that it has become a second nature for him or her and can be performed easily. As a result, the skill can be performed while executing another task. The individual may be able to teach it to others depending upon how and when it is learned. Example of the writing skill learned in the process of writing the thesis is also for writing other research papers. So now we understand these are the four different types of competency skill defined, shared by um, Martin Broadwell, 4 levels. Okay. Now we move on to markers of psychological competencies. Now, it is important for every individual to attain a predetermined and clearly articulated levels of competence in a given domain or a professional activity. The acquisition of competence along with the development of capability to adapt change, exhibiting sound judgment, and wise action in complex, unique, and uncertain situations involving connecting values and ethical stances, generating new knowledge, and continue to improve performances are very essential. The competencies are combination of knowledge, skills, and attitudes that individuals develop and apply for successful learning. Okay. The markers of psychological competencies emphasize aspects of learning that apply within and across all areas of an individual's life. Some of the markers of psychological competencies are explained below. Let us look at some of them. Okay. So the first one, it is given in your books, are the critical thinking. What is critical thinking? Critical thinkers involve using reasoning and criteria to conceptualize, evaluate, or synthesize ideas. Individual reacts on their thinking to improve it. They challenge assumptions behind thoughts, beliefs, or actions. People should value honesty, fairness, and open-mindedness. The critical thinking is characterized by the following. One is questioning and analyzing, right? Evidence, assertions, or assumption. The second one is applying reasoned approaches or relevant criteria to conceptualize, analyze, or make judgment. And thirdly, reflecting upon and evaluating reasoning behind thoughts, beliefs, or actions. And synthesizing thoughts and information to discover or extend understandings. Demonstrating intellectual integrity, fairness, and open-mindedness. The next one is problem solving. What is problem solving? Problem solving involves selecting strategies and resources to move from what is known to what is sought. Individuals analyze situations, create plans of actions, and implement solutions creatively. Flexibility and determination. The problem solving is characterized by the following. That is, identifying what is known and what is required to clarify a problem, and exploring problem solving strategies using relevant information, resources, or criteria, and then assessing options to generate course of action, evaluating the impact of possible solutions to carry out the most viable options, and approaching challenges with creativity, flexibility, and determination. So that's how we can solve problems. The next part of marker of a psychological competence is managing information. How do we manage information? Managing information involves organizing and using information for specific purposes. Individuals access, interpret, evaluate, and share information from a variety of digital and non-digital sources. They should be ethical and effective in how they use and share the information. People should value reliability, validity, and integrity of the information. Managing information is characterized by the following. That is, assessing the information from a variety of digital or non-digital sources, synthesizing or organizing multiple pieces of information to enhance or clarify understanding, evaluating authenticity, reliability, or validity to appropriately interpret or use information, and using, sharing, or storing information effectively and ethically. Okay. So next is creativity and innovation. What is creativity and innovation? It involves generating and applying ideas to create something of value. Individuals recognize opportunities to apply ideas in new ways. They should be open to play with the ideas, take risks, and adapt to changing conditions. They should demonstrate optimism, initiative, and ingenuity. Creativity and innovation are characterized by the following: recognizing opportunities, imagining possibilities to apply ideas in new ways, exploring or playing with ideas, finding materials or process to create ideas into or something new, evaluating and adapting ideas, innovate materials or processes in response to feedbacks or emerging conditions, and demonstrating initiative, resourcefulness, and perseverance when transforming ideas into actions, products, or services. Communication. Now, communication involves sharing ideas through oral, written, nonverbal media. Individuals engage in formal, informal exchange with others. They consider how culture, context, and experience impact messaging. People should demonstrate respect, empathy, and responsibility when communicating with others, right? So communication is characterized by the following: clarifying the purpose or intention of the message and experience in relation to audience and context or culture, considering perspectives, emotions, and experience when seeking to share understandings, decoding and interpreting ideas or information shared through verbal or nonverbal formats, expressing ideas or concepts using appropriate language, conventions, or protocol, demonstrating respect and responsibility when communicating with others. Okay. And the next one is a collaboration. What is collaboration? Collaboration involves working with others to achieve a common goal. Individual participates, exchange ideas, and share responsibilities. They respect the competing views and nurture positive relationships. They should be adaptable, willing to compromise, and value the contributions of other collaboration, right? With others in collaboration. And what are the characteristics of this collaboration? Shared responsibilities by supporting each other for a common goal, demonstrating sensitivity to diverse culture, audiences in the context when working with others, exhibiting reciprocity and trust when sharing ideas or role, valuing flexibility, compromise, and contribution of others to nurture positive working in relationships. Okay, and the last one is the cultural and global citizenship. What is it? It involves actively engage with cultural, environmental, political, and economic systems. People advocate for the dignity and well-being of individuals and communities. They should value equity and diversity and believe in their capacity to make a difference. Cultural and global citizenship is characterized by considering diverse perspectives when examining interactions between cultural environment, political or social economic systems and communities. Analyzing various ways in which decisions are made within cultural and environment or political economic system, demonstrating responsible citizenship through actions and contribute to healthy and sustainable communities, and evaluating the impact of decisions or actions on the dignity and well-being of individuals or communities, valuing equity and diversity and believing in the capacity to make a difference. Then we move to personal growth and well-being, which involves managing emotional, intellectual, physical, social, and spiritual aspects of living. Individuals set learning, career, or wellness goals and work towards them. They draw upon friends to develop interests, skills, and talents. Individuals must be reflective, resourceful, and optimistic, and they must strive for personal excellence. Right? Like identifying interest, values, or skills to set learning, career, or goals, exploring, selecting, adapting strategies and resources that support personal growth in life, school, or career pathways, making choices or taking action to promote safety and well-being of self or others, building healthy relationships to promote growth and well-being of self and others, demonstrating optimism, flexibility, or resilience when adapting to new situations and transitions. This competence connotes the capability of critical thinking and analysis, the successful exercise of professional judgment in assessing a situation, making decisions about what to do or not do based on that assessment, and the ability to evaluate and modify one's decision as principles, standards, guidelines, and values of professions required public verification. Further, competence is developmental, as what is expected differs depending on the individual stage of professional functioning. In addition to competence in the context of different competencies, aspects of each competence, and execution of competencies varies depending on setting and environment. Competencies are elements of competence. Competence are composed of knowledge, skills, and attitudes, which are coherent groups are necessary for professional practice. They correlate with performance and can be evaluated against well accepted standards and can be enhanced through development. So, with this, we finish the unit 1 on competencies. Okay. So, you have the summary, you have the model questions for progress, and then you have the glossary for better understanding. So, if you go through it, you'll be able to better understand. Now, we move on to the next unit, that is the unit 2, which is personality. Right? What is the objective of this unit? The objective of the unit is to know the nature of personality. It is explain the biological determinants of personality, yeah, and explain the psychological determinants of personality, and also explain the social determinants of personality, right? So, in simple ways, if you talk about personality, if you want to know about somebody's personality, what comes to the mind? What comes to the mind is all the adjectives, the good qualities of the person. When you talk about the personality of X, Y, and Z, or maybe your friend, or maybe somebody you love, you talk about, if you're talking about the positive traits, you talk about how cheerful the person was, how energetic, how self-reliant, how cooperative. So these are the kind of adjectives we talk about that characterizes the personalities. And these qualities are of immense importance in work and home, which forms a social life. And these adjectives are personality words which are qualities of a behavior. This personality can be broadly defined as a total quality of individual behavior. An individual's personality is a combination of traits and patterns that influence their behavior, thought, motivation, and emotion. It drives individuals to think consistently, feel, and behave in specific ways. In essence, it is what makes the individual unique. Over time, the patterns strongly emerge, right? Expectations, perceptions, and values and attitude. Therefore, personalities is the unique ways in which each individual think, act, act, and feel throughout their lives. Okay. But personality should not be confused with character, which refers to value judgment made about a person's moral or ethical behavior, nor should it be confused with temperament. That enduring characteristics in which each one is born, such as irritability or adaptability. Both character and temperaments are vital parts of the personality, but not synonymous with the personality. So we need to be clear about the two aspects. Okay, the personality, okay, which is not just the broad aspects, right, of how a person thinks, feels, and behaves. It is also about the kind of character the person has and also the temperament. Nature of personality. Now, personality comes from a Latin word by name persona, which means mask. The study of personality can be understood as a study of masks that people wear. These are the personas that people project and display, but also includes the inner parts of psychological experience, which is collectively called as self. In psychology, the term personality is used means hypothetical conduct construct or an agency which explain the integration of different behavioral process resulting in meaningful behavior in such a way so as to make one person different from the other. So according to Kimball Young, personality is a pattern body of habits, traits, attitudes, and ideas of an individuals, as these are organized externally into roles and statutes, and as they relate internally to motivational goals and various aspects of selfhood. Gordon Allport defined personality as a person's pattern of habits, attitude, traits to determine his adjustment and his alignment. According to Robert Koch, it is the sum and the organization of those traits which determine the role of the individuals in this group. Okay. From all the above definitions, there are two main approaches to study of personality. The psychological approach considers personality as a certain style of peculiar to the individual, and the sociological approach considered personality in terms of the status of the individual or the group. Okay, so the two styles of personality, one is the individual personality and the other is the sociological approach to personality. Now let us look at the understanding and the nature of personality, which will be clear for us. Okay. Some of the characteristics of the personality are uniqueness. What is unique? Every individual is unique. No two individuals are the same. No two persons can be same. Even if they are identical um, uh, twins, even if they are twins, no two twins can have the same type of personality. That means each person is unique as himself or herself. That is the first thing. Second thing is the organization. Personality is not just one or more aspects of behavior, but it's a total integrated behavior woven into a whole. The greater degree of organization, the more healthy and the normal person is. So when you are talking about personality, we talk about the complete person, the organized person, right? Consistency or stability. What is consistency or stability is one of the characteristics of personality, recognizable from situation to situation by consistent characteristics that are reflected in the person's behavior. The third characteristic is dynamic. All the personality of an individual remains stable to large extent. It can't be said to be static. It is always dynamic. Dynamic means it is in the process of continuously changing as the person keeps growing. The third aspect is self-consciousness. Personality exhibits self-consciousness, and it is a profound possession of human being. Man is described as having a personality when the idea of self enters into consciousness. Psycho Psychophysical systems. Personality is neither exclusively physical nor is exclusively mental. Similarly, it is neither the product of hereditary exclusively nor is the product of our acquired behavior or learning exclusively. Organization of personality entails functioning of both body and mind. Psychophysical system composed of habits, attitudes, and sentiments are the product of hereditary environments and acquired life experiences. Okay, so these are all about the individual characters. When you look at the social characteristics, the personality is completely social. Personality has existence only in relation to external world. An individual's relation with his environment, his feelings, his attitudes are basic to the idea of personality. An integrated personality is one which makes harmonious adjustments to environment, particularly to the social environment. Thus, personality is the sum of ideas, attitudes, and values of a person, which determines his role in society and forms an integral part of his character. Personality is acquired by individual as a result of his participation in group life. As a member of the group, he learns certain behavior, system, and symbolic skills which determines his ideas, attitude, and social values. Now let us look at determinants of personality, right? What is determinants of personality? A personality of an individual is shaped or formed and influenced by many factors, right? It's a combination of the biological factors, the psychological factors, and the social cultural factors. Okay, so let's look at each one of them, right? When we look at the biological determinants of personality, right, the biological factors are biogene by nature and include aspects such as hereditary, physic, and physical condition, endocrine glands, and the nervous system, right? Heredity is an important factor in the personality formation. Almost every form of personality has been attributed to heredity. In the field of behavior genetics, the Minnesota study of twins read apart a well-known study of the genetic basis of personality. This research was conducted with the twins from 1979 to 1999. In studying 350 pairs of twins, including pairs of identical and fraternal twins reared together and apart. Researchers found that the identical twins, whether raised together or apart, have similar personalities. These findings suggest that hereditary of some personality, implying some of the aspects of personalities are largely controlled by genetics. Okay, largely controlled by genetics. Find that some person, okay, multiple studies have found that identical twins do have higher correlations in personality traits and fraternal twins. Physical and physical condition, important biological factor affecting the personality of the physical structure. Physical characteristics influence on individual styles of life, his mode of behavior, his action, tendencies, and goal of life. Recent studies have shown that children begin picking up their playmates at a very early age by such standard as facial attractiveness and body form. Physical differences in height, weight, complexion, forms, or defects influence the individual. The child who is short-sighted may develop a feeling of inferiority if the other person teases him. Similarly, about the weight, if the person is overweight, his playmates, his class fellow friends may tease him and he may develop inferiority feeling. Physical defects, physically handicapped children have no well-developed personality as compared to normal children. Example, blindness or weak eyesight, deafness. Health and strength, a person who has good health, strength, energy, vigor, generally develops emotionally balanced attitude towards life and takes part in various competition. On the other hand, person who is physically inferior develops unbalanced personality. Endocrine glands. Endocrine glands send a secretion directly into the blood to the blood without a their secretions are called hormones. These hormones are responsible for many changes in the personality of the individual. Different glands secretes one or more types of hormones which affects personality. Some of them are the adrenal gland, the thyroid glands, the pituitary gland, the sex glands, and the gonadals. Endocrine glands play an important role in the development of personality of individuals. Their malfunctioning leads to various physical and mental defects. Adrenal gland. The malfunctioning of adrenal gland causes Addison's disease, which causes the impairing of judgment, loss of sleep, and weakness. The overactivity of this gland makes the individual energetic, persistent, and vigorous. If this gland is underactive, the individual becomes indecisive, irritable, and neurasthenic. Thyroid glands. The overactivity of thyroid glands makes the individual restless, irritable, worried, and unstable. The underactivity of this gland of disease is known as a cranitism, which makes the individual dull, sluggish, and lethargic. Pituitary glands, which are sometimes called the master glands, and they have an effect on the personality and intelligence. They help in the growth of the body. Their underactivity causes roughness, and overactivity causes giantness in size, physical, and mental activities impeded. Sex glands or the gun. They exert greater influence on the sex life of the individual. If they are overactive, they will make the individual oversex. On the other hand, if they are underactive, the sex urge becomes weak. Nervous system. Nervous system plays a vital role in the development of the personality. Man's intellectual ability or motor skills, motor ability, physical strength, and ability to adjust depends on the structure and modification of nervous system. Any injury to nervous system will affect the personality of the individual. Nervous system limits one's learning capacity. So it is evident that development of personality is influenced by the nature of nervous system. Frontal lobe has a specific role to play in personality development of a person. The frontal lobes are considered to be emotional control centers and home to the personality. There is no other part of the brain where lesions can cause wide variety of symptoms. The frontal lobes are involved in motor functions, problem solving, spontaneity, memory, language, initiation, judgment, impulse control, and social behavior. The frontal lobes are extremely vulnerable to injury due to their location at the front of the cranium and the large size. One of the most common effects of the frontal damage can be dramatic change in the behavior. A person's personality can undergo significant changes after an injury in the frontal lobes, especially when both lobes are involved. Left frontal lobe damage usually manifests as pseudo-depression and right frontal damage during pseudo-psychopathic. Okay, so with this, we close the unit 2 on personality. Yeah. Now we move to the psychology, that is the biological determinism. So far, whatever we have read, understood. The next comes the psychological determinants of personality. What does psychological determinants of personality entail? They have a big role in functioning of the human behavior and development of one's personality. The first thing is the motives. Motives are internal state that arouses and direct behavior towards specific object or goal. Motives drive people to perceive, think, and act in ways that serves to satisfy a need. The behavior and the personality of the individual is led by certain motives. Some of them important motives among human beings are achievement, power, and affiliation. People have high need for achievement, prefer activities that offer some but not too much challenge, enjoy tasks they are personally responsible for their outcome, and prefer tasks where feedback and performance is available. People with high need for power and interest in controlling situation and controlling others, which makes them a dominant personality. People with affiliation motive are warm, communicative, report more pleasant emotions when around people, smile, laugh, make more eye contact, which makes them friendly and personality. Interest. Another psychological factor that influences personality is the interest of the person. The kind of interest an individual has reflects on this personality. The people who are more interested in computer games are less sociable than people who are interested in traveling. Some interests put individual in better life path, while others playing the guitar, which requires person to be around the people, develop their skills. Such interests, mobile games, okay, may feel isolated. There are certain interests like sports which can make the person popular, hence improving his self-concept. Attitudes. An attitude is defined by relatively lasting feelings, beliefs, behavior tendencies directed toward specific groups, ideas, issues, and objects. A positive attitude is very important for the personality development. Positive attitude of the personality through the positive traits. These are admirable traits, help an individual grow in personal and professional aspects of his life or her life. Some of the positive personality traits that can be developed with positive attitudes are enthusiasm, optimism, adaptability, self-esteem, confidence, and self-control. Let's look at intellectual capacities. Okay, this is one of the psychological traits. Personality and intelligence have traditionally been viewed as distinct domain of human functioning. Research has found that IQ is positively related to traits such as toughness, leadership, self-disclosure, and emotional stability. Social determinants of personality. Okay, so with that, we complete biological determinants and psychological determinants. Now we move to sociological determinants of personality. The personality of an individual is gradually shaped by culture. Every society is characterized by its cultural heritage, which is transmitted from generation to generation in form of social hereditary. Culture refers to total life activities of a society. What people think or do or feel represent the culture of a society. Biological inheritance is the same in human beings all over the world, but it is difference in the cultural condition, which helps in developing unique personality characteristics in the individuals of different cultural groups. It is the social factors such as parents, peer groups, school environment, and the culture society influence on how children think, socialize, and become self-aware. Family. Family is the most significant agent of socialization in all societies. It is important. It has main responsibility from shaping the personalities of children in the crucial early areas of their life. The family is where children establish their first close emotional ties, learn language, and begin to internalize norms and values. The pattern of social interactions within the family may provide unintended models for the later behavior and personality traits of children when they grow into adulthood. Each family members offer a unique experience and helps in personality development of a child. Parents, they are the first contact to their children. They provide the focal point for culture. The personalities of the parents contribute more to the development of the personalities of their children. A sympathetic father, an understanding mother may inculcate socially acceptable and personally rewarding traits. On the other hand, a dominating father or a nagging mother may lead to emotional instability, shyness, and hostility. The overprotected children develop habits of dependency. They become selfish and have little consideration for others. The rejected children often show social timidity and fear. Opportunities created by parents for the children also help in personality development. Parents who communicate norms, expectation to the children clearly also helps the better parent-child relations. Children learn culturally appropriate behaviors and attitudes from their parents. Single parents and conflicts with parents can lead to imbalance in child's personality. Apart from parents' behavior and attitude, their expectations from their child, their educational levels, and their attention towards the child, and their attention towards the child are some of the aspect parents influence the child's personality. Siblings. Siblings have a role to play in child's behavior and adjustments. Children who are dominated by older siblings are generally suppressed introverts. Similarly, interactions between sibling, quality of sibling relationship, gender of the sibling will affect the personality of the individual. Family atmosphere, again very important. Family environment is another factor which influences the personality of the child. Family atmosphere, if disruptive, will produce disruptive, delinquent, backward, and maladjusted personalities. The number of members in the family, birth order of the child, emotional climate of family, culture, and economic conditions of the family has an important influence on the personality formation. The school environment. After family, school is the next socializing agent. By the fact the children spend most of the time in school. School plays an important role in the development of personality. Success or failure in the school setting has an impact on the personality. When the values of school conflict with those found in the home, frustration is experienced. The important aspect of the school which attributes to personality development are teachers' personality. Right? So children come in contact with teachers whose personality influences them and they even adopt the teacher's style. They see the teacher as their ideal. The teacher's attitudes, beliefs, ideas, habits, ambitions, aspirations, sentiments, and emotional maturity affects the personality development of the child. The curriculum of the school, right? The richness or the dullness of the curriculum affects the personality of the individual. The methods of teaching and co-curricular activities also influence personality development. General atmosphere in school, congenial or uncongenial atmosphere, and discipline of the school influence the personality development. Confidence of the child can be built or destroyed in the school here for one reason or the other. The school may mean terrifying chaos for one child and heaven for comfort another. Peer groups. As children grow older, they spend more and more time in the company of their own age group of people, their own peers. People roughly equivalent to their age, adults tend to associate people with their own age, similar social status. Peer group selection also takes place in the same line. Each of these friends have influence on the child. It is from this peer group the child often finds he can imitate and identify with. The personality is also to a great extent influenced by peer interaction. The peers with whom the child influence him and tries to adopt whatever he likes in them. Culture and society. It is usually the first outsider and interacts with children. Sometimes the culture and society determines the other agents of socialization like selection of schools, peers, or clubs. The culture influences thoughts, speech, and ideas of individuals. For example, an American has a different personality from an Indian because he's brought up in different culture. An educated, well-behaved society and nation influences the nature and personality of the individual. Okay, you need not have to take only American as an example. You can even take different cultures, like where you are grown up in a Maharashtrian culture or South Indian culture or North Indian culture. Okay, significant personal experiences. Adding to the above factors, another important factor which influences the development of individual's personality is the significant personal experiences of the individual. These experiences form the foundation of the unique and individual aspects of personality. Such personal experiences can either be positive or negative. Prolonged severe illness, accidents, traumatic experiences like loss of parents, all this can also have an impact. Right? In extreme cases, it can also give behavior abnormality. So it is therefore the personality is influenced by its development and determined by number of factors. The personality of the individual is the product of continuous cumulative interaction among these various factors. This fact must always be borne in mind while one is trying to understand or compare personalities of people while passing judgments on them. So with this, we end the determinants of personality, which is biological, psychological, and social. Okay, so we close this. You have a summary of this. Then you have a model response questions. You can check your progress with these model questions. You have the fill in the blanks, and then you have the glossary, and there are also further readings, right? If you are interested to learn more about this. Okay. So with this, we complete the unit 2. Today we complete unit 2, and there's just 5 more minutes. I can just introduce the unit 3, which is on life skills. The objectives of this unit is to understand the concept of life skills, explore the main components of life skill, understand the significance of life skills in our lives, know the importance of effective life skills, understand the relationship between life skills and individual personality development, and to explore the relationship patterns, okay, when you are life for the life skill. In recent years, the concept of life skill has been popularly used, particularly in the context of health and reproductive health. The World Health Organization, while initiating life skill education, conceptualized life skill as a psychological competence. What are life skills? A skill is learned ability to do something well. So life skills are that abilities individuals can develop to live a fulfilled life. Life skills are psychosocial abilities that enable individuals to transfer knowledge, attitudes, and values regarding their concerns into well-informed and healthy behaviors. Empowered with such skill, young people are able to take decisions based on a logical process of what to do, why to do, and how to do it, and when to do. Life skills are essentially those abilities that help to promote physical, mental, emotional well-being competencies to face the realities of life. The WHO has defined life skill as abilities for adaptive and positive behavior that enable individuals to deal effectively with the demands and challenges of everyday life. Adaptive means the person is flexible in approach and is able to adjust in different circumstances. Positive behaviors implies that a person is forward-looking and even in difficult situations can identify a ray of hope and opportunities to find solution. UNICEF defined life skill as a behavior change or a behavior development approach designed to address a balance of three areas, that is knowledge, attitudes, and skills. Let's look at the components of life skill. The WHO broadly categorizes life skill into the following three components. They are cognitive, that is thinking skill, social, that is interpersonal skill, and thirdly, it is the emotional skill. We look at each one. The cognitive, that is a thinking skill, which include decision making or problem solving skills and information gathering skills. The individual must be also skilled at evaluating the future consequences of the present actions and the actions of others. They need to be able to determine alternative solutions and to analyze the influence of their own values and the values of those around them. Let's look at social and interpersonal skills, include verbal and non-verbal communication, active listening, and the ability to express feelings and give feedback. Also in this category are negotiation, refusal skills, and assertive skills that directly affects one's ability to manage conflict. Empathy, which is the ability to listen and understand others' needs, is also a key to interpersonal skill. Teamwork and ability to cooperate, including expressing respect for others. Development of these skill sets enables the adolescents to be accepted in society. These skills result in acceptance and social norms that provide the foundation of adult social behavior. The last one is the emotional skill, or the skill refers to increase the internal locus of control so that the individual believes that they can make a difference in their world and affect change. Self-esteem, self-awareness, self-evaluation skills, and ability to set goals are also part of the more general category of self-management skills. Anger, grief, anxiety must also be dealt, and individuals learn to cope with loss or trauma. Stress and time management are the positive thinking and relaxation techniques. The above three broad categories consist following specific types. Like when we are talking about cognitive thinking skill, critical thinking, creative thinking, problem solving, decision making, self-awareness all becomes part of the life skill. And when we're talking about the social interpersonal skills, communication skills, assertive skills, cooperation skills, and empathy. And when we talk about the emotional skills, it is managing our emotions, managing our stress, regulating our emotions, learn to deal with our emotions, and to be able to express our emotions in a healthy manner. Okay. So with this, we have introduced the life skill, what life skill is all about, what are the components of life skill education, that is the cognitive thinking skill, the social interpersonal skills, the emotional skills. Okay. Now, what is the significance of life skill? According to the developmental scientists, early adolescence, that is 10 to 14, is singled out as a critical moment of opportunity for building skills and positive habits. Since at this age, there is a recognition for self, ability to think and solve problems. An early adolescent is expected to move from security of middle school to the challenges of secondary school education. The wider the social context of early and middle adolescence provide varied situation in where there is motivation to practice new skills with peers and other individuals outside the family. Developing skills and competencies are recognized as the critical to a child's growing sense of identity. The transition to high school is also a challenge for students, both academically and socially. Effective strategies for coping with problems, planning with time management skill, problem solving, decision-making skills are among the factors identified as instrumental in students making successful transition from middle school, that is a 6th to 8th grade, to high school, that is a 9th to 12th grade. According to the National Curriculum Framework 2005, learning has become an isolated activity which does not encourage children to link knowledge with their life. Knowledge has to be connected to life outside the school. The Indian scenarios issues are rapid industrialization, target for international market, huge population, an economy not keeping pace, poor infrastructure for welfare, lawfare, law and order house, transition in families joined to nuclear, academic and career stress, parents no longer the role model, suppression and exploitation of adolescent girl generation. Okay, so this we stop here and then we continue tomorrow at the same time on the same link on life skill education, so that we should be able to complete this life skill education and move on to the next block. Okay, so thank you for listening to me. I encourage students to join in. I hope this is a recorded session so that you'll be able to listen to whenever you are able to listen to, be able to have some basic understanding of this subject on psychological competencies. So thank you once again and God bless.